One, two, three.
I'd like to call to order this public meeting of the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York. I will read the usual public notice. The meetings of the Board of Trustees of the City University of New York are open to the public, and the board welcomes the interest of those who attend. The public has ample opportunity to communicate with the board. Public hearings on the board's policy calendar are scheduled 1 week prior to the board's regular meetings. Members of the public who wish to communicate with the board are invited to express their views at such public hearings. Furthermore, the board holds additional public hearings each year in all of the 5 boroughs, at which members of the public may also speak. In addition, written communications to the board are distributed to all trustees. The board must carry out the functions assigned to it by law and therefore cannot tolerate conduct by members of the public that disrupts its meetings. In the event of disruptions, including noise, which interferes with board discussion, after appropriate warning, I will ask the security staff to remove persons engaging in disruptive conduct. The university may seek disciplinary and/or criminal sanctions against persons who engage in conduct that violates the university's rules or state laws which prohibit interference with the work of public bodies. May I now request that everyone take a moment to mute your cell phones or Blackberries? Thank you very much. As usual, CUNY TV is transmitting this afternoon's meeting of the board live on cable channel 75. This meeting is also being webcast live at www.cuny.edu/livestream, providing service. Board meeting will also be available as a podcast within 24 hours and can also be accessed via the CUNY website. Please join me in welcoming back to our table Dr. Eduardo Marti in his new role as interim president of Bronx Community College. Eduardo, of course, is no stranger here, having served with great distinction as president of Queensborough Community College from 2000 to 2010, and more recently as vice chancellor for all community colleges from 2010 to 2012. I want to express our collective appreciation to Mohammed Arshad, who I guess is not here at the moment, for his year of outstanding service as chairperson of the University Student Senate and as a student member of the Board of Trustees. Thank you, Mohammed, for your dedication to the CUNY mission. I also want to extend our warmest welcome and congratulations to the new University Senate chairperson and student trustee, Joseph Awaji, on his election effective November 1. Joseph is currently pursuing a Master of Science degree at Brooklyn College, specializing in the natural and behavioral sciences. He has been a member of the board's Fiscal Affairs Committee. Mohammed, we thanked you, but I'm afraid you were not here to hear our applause. Thank you for your excellent service as a trustee. Chancellor Milliken and I have scheduled a trustee and chancellery dinner with the newly elected CUNY student leaders early in December. I think all the trustees have received an invitation to this important event, which I find is always the occasion for very interesting discussions. I want to thank our Vice Chair, Phil Berry, as well as Trustee Frida Foster, for presenting CUNY START, Pre-Matriculation Intervention to Address Remedial Needs, to an enthusiastic audience on October 23rd at the 45th Annual Association of Community College Trustees Leadership Congress. They were joined by LaGuardia Community College President Gail Mello and Hostos Community College Interim President David Gomez. I would also like to thank Trustees Valerie Beal, Rita DiMartino, and Frida Foster for their presentations at the well-attended 9th Annual CUNY's Women's Leadership Conference on October 31st at Hunter College. The conference took place with the help of the Council of Presidents Women's Leadership Committee, chaired by President Marcia Keyes, co-sponsored by the New York Times, the conference leadership for the next 10 years, advancing the agenda. I would also like to thank Valerie Beal for representing this board at the recent McKinsey & Company 2014 Board of Higher Education Summit, as well as Trustee Charles Shorter for his presentation at the CUNY-wide President's Foundation Leaders Conference in early November, organized by Chancellor Milliken and the Association of Governing Boards. I also want to thank Vice Chair Phil Berry and Trustees Beal and Shorter for representing the board at today's ribbon cutting of the Charles Innes Memorial Library at Medgar Evers College. Hostos Professor Cynthia Jones, who is at the table across from me, is with us. Professor Jones was selected the 2014 New York State Professor of the Year from among nearly 400 top-level educators in the U.S. by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. This is a highly prestigious honor. I note that this is the second time in recent years that Hostos Community College professor has won this prestigious award. Professor Rees Shad was selected to the 2012 New York State Professor of the Year. May I call on Interim President David Gomez to introduce Professor Jones to the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my pleasure to have this opportunity to recognize Professor Jones, not only for the distinction given by the Carnegie Foundation, but to acknowledge a lifetime of work devoted to the service of our students. Professor Jones is extraordinary not just because the Carnegie Foundation says so, but because our students say so. For nearly 4 decades, she has distinguished herself as a scholar, a teacher, a mentor, and an advisor to college presidents. She was also instrumental in guiding a young dean some 30 years ago, who later returned to serve as president and who now has the honor of presenting her today. When Professor Jones speaks of her students, she invokes the image of her mother in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and the challenges her family faced in the segregated South. She speaks of being humbled by her students. Ladies and gentlemen, I am humbled by the modesty, dedication, and the talent that we at Hostos have in the person of Professor Cynthia Jones.
Would like to say a few words, Professor Jones?
Thank you very much. I just want to say I am Hostos, and I have had the honor of serving at what I think is my second home. And I'm very humbled by this award, but I think it's an award that everyone at Hostos shares. So I thank you for inviting me here today. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to announce that Hunter College alumnus Phil Clay of the Hunter College MFA class of 2011, who is sitting at the table with us today, won the coveted National Book Award in fiction. His book, Redeployment, a debut short story collection, is based partly on the time he served the United States in Iraq. The National Book Award is a signal achievement. I'd like to make note that CUNY faculty have won this illustrious honor in the past. Hunter College distinguished Professor Colin McCann won it in 2009 for his novel, Let the Great World Spin, and distinguished professor at the Graduate School and University Center, James Oakes, was longlisted for the 2013 award in nonfiction for his book, Freedom National. You may recall that Professor Oakes won the 2008 Lincoln Prize for his book, The Radical and the Republican, and he won the Lincoln Prize again in 2013, also for Freedom National. President Rabb, could you please introduce Mr. Phil Clay to us?
With deep, deep pleasure. We are all at Hunter College quelling at Phil's recent award, very well deserved for this extraordinary young man who's a 2011 graduate of Hunter's MFA in creative writing. This is a debut short story collection, Redeployment, about his service as a Marine in Iraq, and it was shortlisted for the Frank O'Connor Prize. He's been number 14 on the New York Times bestseller list, received a rave review from Michiko Kakutani, and was also on the front cover of the Times Sunday Book Review. The list goes on of Phil's already distinguished achievements as a young writer, and his deeply personal story is something that I know all of you will enjoy. We actually had the books for everybody. They didn't arrive. They arrived, and Phil actually has a Sharpie to sign. But Phil is somebody who deserves this award as a writer, deserves this award as a soldier and as a patriot, but also, I believe, shares our joy at the attention this has also brought this extraordinary program. We have extraordinary students like Phil who are part of a group of 500 to 600 students every year who apply for the 19 to 21 slots in this program. The faculty that teaches in this program, you mentioned Colin McCann. We have two-time Booker Prize winner Peter Carey, Claire Massoud, Tom Slay, an extraordinary list of people who, together with their students, exemplify what CUNY is doing in the world of the arts. We are making it possible for talented young people like Phil to invest their time in their passion of writing without having to worry about the crushing financial burden of debt and of their future, and to explore their abilities, and then to go on to achieve the award that Phil has received and the ones that I know that are in Phil's future. So we celebrate today Phil's achievement, but also the achievement of a public university that is so invested in the arts and makes so much possible. And as a final note, I think for Phil and for all of us, this is also an example of a place where philanthropy in CUNY has made such a difference. And the Hertog family's investment in this program has allowed us to bring so many mentors who've worked with students like Phil to help them achieve their dreams. So I think together it's something that the system should be very proud of, and particularly Phil, all of us at Hunter and all of us at CUNY congratulate you and know that there are so many more great achievements for you in your future. And in addition, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you so much. I'm incredibly proud to be a Hunter alum. It was actually Tom Slay who convinced me to look at Hunter, and I was amazed. It was by far my top choice just because of the faculty that were there, the chance to work with people like Colin McCann and Peter Carey. And of course, the other really incredible thing was, aside from the fact that it was very affordable, which was really important. I had the GI Bill, thankfully, but also important for the other students there who were very serious, committed writers, a lot of whom had come a little bit later in life. The Hertog Foundation allowed me to work as a research assistant for Richard Ford on his book Canada, which was a remarkable experience. And books are made out of other books, not just the books that I read with the Hunter faculty, but also the books that my fellow Hunter alums were working on. Just this year, I've been to 5 debut launches of other Hunter alums. And actually, the year before, Bill Chang, who is a Baruch alum and then went to Hunter and is a good friend and was with me. His book, Southern Cross the Dog, came out. And I know of 2 other Hunter alums who have books coming out next year. So it's just a continual parade, and I'm just very grateful to have been a part of it and to have benefited from the Hunter program and from also the philanthropy that helps it keep going and provides incredible opportunities.
Mr. Chair.
As we all know, the National Book Award is one of the greatest honors in the world in literature, and the fact that CUNY professors and alumni are winning such an award shows the world-class work that we're doing here at the university in the fine arts and literature, as well as in so many other areas. So congratulations for representing the very best of CUNY as you do.
Mr. Chair, just a brief word. I, for one, among the trustees, Mr. Clay read your book when it first came out and was overwhelmed by it. I was not surprised you won the award, and I recommend to all the trustees it is a rich and moving book and well worth your attention. Congratulations, but I'm not surprised.
Finally, on an international note, we were all deeply gratified to see the City University of New York in the news recently when our 13th alumnus won the Nobel Prize, in this case in physiology and medicine. Congratulations to John O'Keefe, a child who grew up in the South Bronx, who drove a cab at night and graduated in 6 years from the City College of New York in 1963. The board held its operating and capital budget and public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2014. Trustee Frida Foster chaired the hearing that was also attended by Trustees Barry Schwartz, Joseph Waji, Terrence Martell, Chancellor Milliken, as well as members of the Chancellery. A summary of that hearing has been circulated to the trustees and to the Chancellor's cabinet, and a transcript is available in the office of the Secretary. On behalf of the board, I want to extend our deepest condolences to the family of Bernard Spitzer, who passed away on November 1st at the age of 90. A City College alumnus in the class of 1943 and a prominent New York real estate developer and philanthropist, Mr. Spitzer, with his wife Anne, pledged $25 million to the School of Architecture at City College. Also in 2005, he established the first endowed Bernard and Ann Spitzer Chair in Political Science with his wife, Anne, an English literature professor at Marymount. He also established the magnificent Anne and Bernard Spitzer Hall of Human Origins at the American Museum of Natural History. He was one of our most distinguished alumni, and he will be sorely missed. Also, on behalf of the board, I want to offer our deepest condolences to the family of Edward Ned Reagan, former New York State Controller and Erie County Executive, who served with great distinction and purpose as president of Baruch College from 2004 to 2000, from 2000 to 2004. May I now call on Trustee Valerie Beal, Rita DiMartino, to announce college and faculty honors.
Thank you. LaGuardia Community College was one of 24 colleges selected out of 500 competing to receive a $2.9 million first-in-the-world grant from the Obama administration and the U.S. Department of Education to fund student success initiatives. Congratulations. Baruch College ranked number 9 on Princeton Review's list of top 50 undergraduate programs for entrepreneurship. Congratulations. College of Staten Island Department of Media Culture, Associate Professor Michael Mandenberg was recognized as one of the 100 leading global thinkers of 2014 by Foreign Policy magazine for his work bolstering a more balanced presentation of art, feminism, gender studies, and LGBTQ issues on Wikipedia. Congratulations. Graduate School and University Center Distinguished Professor Domna Stanton, a member of the Human Rights Watch, was recently appointed by Mayor Bill de Blasio a commissioner to the New York City Human Rights Commission. Congratulations. Hunter College professor Ronnie Ancona was elected president of the Classical Association of the Atlantic States for 2014 to 2015, and Hunter professor Gerald Mallon was elected a Fellow of the American Academy of Social Work and Social Welfare. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. May I now call on Trustee Carol Robles-Ramon to announce student and alumni honors.
Thank you. Hunter College High School and Hunter College alumna Mildred Dressenhaus, an MIT professor of physics, received the Presidential Medal of Freedom in a White House ceremony on November 24th. Congratulations. LaGuardia Community College student Vladimir de Jesus was profiled for a New York Times article focusing on the struggles he faces as a single working parent trying to work towards an associate degree. Congratulations. Recent Brooklyn College MFA graduate Keely Sheridan was among the 12 students selected as the 2016 class of George J. Mitchell Scholars on November 22nd. She is the second Brooklyn College student to win this prestigious scholarship. Congratulations to her as well. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. A list of grants and gifts received by the university subsequent to the September 29th, 2014 meeting is available at the table and in the trustees' meeting books. May I now call on Chancellor James B. Milliken to present his report on recent activities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to join Chairperson Schmidt in welcoming Eduardo Marti back to CUNY as the interim president of Bronx Community College. He's been doing a terrific job. Please keep it up, Eduardo. I also want to join the chairman in thanking Trustee Mohammed Arshad for his distinguished tenure. Is Mohammed still here? Yep. Yes. Okay, so I'll keep going. His distinguished tenure as University Student Senate Board Representative. I first met Mohammed when he interviewed me for a job. Thank you, Mohammed. And I've enjoyed thoroughly getting to know him and work with him. I also want to welcome newly elected USS Chairperson and CUNY student trustee Joseph Awaji to his first board meeting. Trustee Awaji is the 29th chairperson of the USS, and I know he will follow in the footsteps of his predecessors to well serve this board and his constituency in the student body. There are a number of important items on the agenda for today, including the university's operating and capital budget requests. Much good work has gone into the development of these requests, and they've been reviewed thoroughly with the relevant board committees. The foundation of affordable access to higher education is a solid base of public funding. In the case of CUNY, primarily from the state, but also from the city. That's why this request and the attention it will receive is so important. Without stable public support, both access and quality suffer. I'm also pleased and grateful for many months of good work, broad consultation and review that has taken place in the development of policies relating to sex-based assault and harassment. We appreciate our discussions on this important policy matter with members of the board, federal officials, the governor's office, New York City Council, state legislature, and members of the university community. I want to especially thank 3 vice chancellors who oversaw the development of these policies: Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs and General Counsel Rick Schaefer, Vice Chancellor for Human Resources Management Gloriana Waters, and Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs Frank Sanchez. And also call out 3 individuals who worked especially diligently for over a year on these policies: Deputy General Counsel Jane Sovereign, University Dean for Recruitment and Diversity Jennifer Rubain, and Deputy the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Paulette Phelps. Thank you very much for your good work. On a related note, I want to acknowledge the thoughtful involvement by student leaders concerning the amendment of aspects of the student disciplinary policies. We appreciate your constructive and thoughtful contributions to this discussion. So, as many of you know, some of you firsthand, I spoke to a large crowd in a beautiful room at the New York City Public Library 2 weeks ago at the Association for Better New York breakfast. Since that speech was distributed, and I'm told has appeared on television several times, I will spare you a reprise today. So here's the executive summary of a 20-plus minute speech. CUNY has a rich history. CUNY's a remarkable institution today. CUNY has an ambitious agenda ahead of it to reach its potential in serving the people of New York. There you have it, for those of you who missed it. So, some activities coming up later this week. I am delighted to join President Gail Mello in Washington with President Obama and the First Lady and the officials from the Department of Education on a day-long summit to discuss college access and completion for low-income and underrepresented students, including CUNY's commitment to continue to lead in this effort. Later this month, Chairperson Schmidt, University Provost Wrigley, and I will host the annual Salute to Scholars reception, which honors university-wide recipients of major awards and fellowships. I hope to see many of you there. And on the 19th of December, happy day, the CUNY Graduate School of Journalism holds its 8th commencement. Margaret Sullivan, the public editor of the New York Times, will be the commencement speaker. We continue to work with our faculty and staff colleagues on negotiation of a contract. And as those of you who were present for last week's hearing were reminded of this. An important part of this effort, of course, involves discussions with the governor's office and the mayor's office. As has been the case in the past, we hope that the state, and to a lesser degree the city, will provide support for this highest university priority. Being competitive for faculty and staff is essential to this university and the people it serves, and the funding of that obligation has a great deal to do with CUNY's ability to provide access and high quality. Moving to the kudos section of the report. First, you can see I'm looking at you, Dean. CUNY Law received an A+ grade for student and faculty diversity in the November 2014 issue of National Jurist. The magazine ranked the law school 6th most diverse in the nation. Congratulations. Now, you've already heard that President Gail Mello and LaGuardia Community College were named one of the first in the world by the president, so I won't repeat that, nor what you just heard. But the same day, President Mello hosted Undersecretary of Education Ted Mitchell for a discussion a broad-based discussion with the leadership at CUNY, and I'm pleased to see that many of the people around the table, most of the presidents and deans, were able to attend that discussion. Thank you, President Miller. Congratulations to President Rapp and Hunter College for being honored by the American Association of State Colleges and Universities with an inaugural Excellence and Innovation Award for its Urban Teacher Residency Program designed to train effective teachers who will remain in the profession. The program is a partnership between Hunter College and the New Visions for Public Schools. Congratulations to Baruch President Mitch Wallerstein, who was elected a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. His induction into the 2014 class will take place in February. Congratulations, Mitch. State officials have named another 10 school districts that will receive funding to implement the P-TECH model, which helps high school students work towards career certificates or college degrees before they graduate. The list includes CUNY and the New York City College of Technology. Congratulations, President Holtzler. Last but not least, some exciting news on the work that we've reported before with the DREAM US, a private foundation founded to support scholarships for undocumented students. The final application figures are in for the most recent round of scholarships. Of the 1,674 applications received nationwide, CUNY colleges represent 678 of those, or 41% of the total applications in this program. The second, Miami-Dade, which was first last year, had 128 applications. I am deeply proud of the presidents, the deans, and the leadership, Frank Sanchez and John Mogilescu and others who worked to get this done under the wire, so thank you very much. I also am very grateful to the Robin Hood Foundation, whose board of directors approved a grant of up to $1.55 million of funding over 3 years to support DREAM students specifically at CUNY colleges. So thank you to the Robin Hood Foundation. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report.
Could you say a word, Mr. Chancellor, or have someone on your staff say a word about the alliance with District Attorney Cy Vance on the, was it $250 million fund that he has to promote innovations in law enforcement and so forth?
A good point. I should have had that in the announcement and the kudos for President Travis. So I would like to ask Jeremy to say a word about that, if he would.
As was made known in an announcement that came out of both Mr. Vance's office and the university, the DA of New York County has, through a variety of legal mechanisms, collected a sizable amount of money from fines that are now being dispensed through his office to improve the criminal justice system in the city and the state and even beyond. And as part of that process, he was selected the Institute for State and Local Government at the university to be the intermediary for that. So we've been in discussion with him at John Jay about sort of the purposes to which that money will be spent. It'll make an enormous difference throughout the city, and the DA has been very generous, I think, in turning to CUNY for that advice.
I'd, at this point, also like to call on Mark Shaw. Might want to add something to that. Mark, do you want to add to the?
Much to add to it, other than the fact that it was a grant that we received as part of the new Institute for State and Local Governance that was started this year at the university. And you know, Jeremy's right. While we're getting the $2.5 million over the next couple of years to give them advice about how to spend the $250 million, I think Jeremy plans on being the major recipient of the proposals for spending the money.
Thank you very much. I thought that was a great honor for CUNY that the district attorney chose us. Are there any comments or questions from the trustees about the chancellor's report? All right. We'll turn now to the policy items that require our vote. I would like to move the adoption of the Chancellor's University Report for December 1st, 2014. You'll find a copy of this report at the table. May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or discussions of the Chancellor's University Report? If not, all in favor of approving it, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The report is adopted. I would like to move the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 29th, 2014. You'll find a copy of the draft minutes for this in your meeting books. May I have a second? Second. Are there any comments about the minutes, suggested revisions? All right, then all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are adopted. We'll turn now to our committee reports. We'll start with the Committee on Fiscal Affairs. May I call on Trustee Loda?
You may, Mr. Chairman. This is the report of the November 3rd meeting. The Committee on Fiscal Affairs, the Subcommittee on Audit, and the Subcommittee on Investments met in joint session on November 3rd. After approval of the minutes of the September 8th meeting, the committee meeting, and the committee approved the following resolutions. Calendar item 3A is a resolution requesting that the trustees of the City University authorize the colleges and the university to enter into contracts to license electronic and other information resources in accordance with the law and university regulations not to exceed an amount of $75 million during the term of this resolution. Any single proposed acquisition with the aggregate value of $5 million or more shall be subject to a separate approval by the trustees. In order to continue to expand available information resources and provide ongoing, uninterrupted provision of existing electronic and other information resources, the Office of Library Services endeavors to decrease costs through coordinated purchasing of electronic and other information resources where appropriate. The university is committed to providing the highest quality information resources to support the research, teaching, and learning efforts of the students and the faculty. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and adoption of calendar item 3A.
I'll second that motion. Are there questions about item 3A? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Item 3A is adopted.
Calendar item 3B is a resolution requesting that the trustees of the City University authorize the General Counsel to execute a contract on behalf of the university to purchase a subscription of Wiley electronic journals for all of the CUNY campus libraries. Such purchase shall not exceed a total estimated cost of $5,985,960 for 5 years. This subscription is a continuation of purchases of STEM resources for the libraries. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and the adoption of calendar item 3B.
I'll second that. Are there any questions or discussions of that item? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? That is adopted.
Calendar item 3C is a resolution requesting that the trustees of the university authorize the Office of Library Services on behalf of the university to purchase online access to full-text journals from Elsevier BV. Such purchases shall not exceed $10,300,000 for 5 years. The purchase is also a continuation of purchases of STEM resources for the library. Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and adoption of calendar item 3C.
I'll second that. Are there questions about the item? Not all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Item 3C is adopted.
And calendar item 3D is a resolution requesting that the trustees of the university authorize the General Counsel to execute 3 contracts on behalf of the university to provide, as needed, intellectual property legal services. The initial term shall be 3 years with 2 one-year extension options. Such services shall not exceed a total estimated cost of $1.5 million. The university requires the services to assist the Technology Commercialization Office with legal issues related to the filing and prosecution of patents worldwide. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and the adoption of calendar item 3D.
I'll second that. Are there questions about the Intellectual Property Legal Services Fund? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That item carries.
Calendar item 3E is a resolution requesting the trustees authorize the City University to adopt for students enrolled in the Master of Fine Arts in College's Barry R. Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema, which will be at the Steiner Studios, starting in the fall 2015 semester and ongoing thereafter as follows. Effective fall 2015, for resident and non-resident full-time students, $4,140 per semester. For resident and non-resident part-time students, $2,070 per semester. Effective in fall of 2016, the resident and non-resident full-time students will be $4,300, and the resident and non-resident part-time students will be $2,150 per semester. And effective fall of 2017, resident and non-resident full-time students will be $4,470 per semester, and resident and non-resident part-time students will be $2,235 per semester. The new Barry R. Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema will open at the Steiner Studios in the Brooklyn Navy Yard in fall 2015. It will offer a 3-year specialized program in 6 disciplines, leading to an MFA in cinema art. It'll be housed in a newly renovated 68,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility on the lot. The school will be equipped with the most up-to-date production, post-production, animation, motion capture, and other equipment. As such, it will boast a filmmaking environment comparable to the finest in the world. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and the adoption of calendar item 3E.
I'll second that. Are there questions about these academic excellence fees? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That item is adopted.
Calendar item 3F is a resolution requesting the adoption of the university's fiscal year 2015-2016 operating budget request. Subject to the availability of resources, the university seeks a total of $3.311 billion for the university. The total includes additional funding of $81.5 million for baseline needs and $122.6 million for an investment plan. At the senior colleges, the total request is $2.394 billion, a $135.7 million increase over the current adopted budget. Of this amount, $62.9 million is for baseline needs and $72.7 million is for the investment plan. At the community colleges, the overall request is $917.3 million, a $68.5 million increase over the current adopted level. Of this amount, $18.6 million will be for baseline needs and $49.9 million is for the investment plan. The 2014-15 appropriation levels of $2.258 billion for the senior colleges and $848.8 million for the community colleges, and the allocation to the various units of the university therefore reflect, per the authority vested in the Chancellery of the Board of Trustees, by the Board of Trustees, all budget adjustments reflected in the FY 14-15 state enacted appropriation for the university. Before the vote on this resolution by the committee, Vice Chancellor Matthew Sapienza made a presentation on the budget request to the committee. I now call on the Vice Chancellor to present the FY 2015-2016 budget request to the full board.
Thank you, Trustee Loader, and good afternoon, everyone. You have 2 documents at your desks. One is the actual budget request document itself, but the document that I'm going to go through this afternoon is a PowerPoint presentation that's labeled Operating Budget Request. And in respect to the time, I'm not going to go through every slide, so let's start on slide 2, the CUNY Compact. Again, it is the 10th year, fiscal year 2016 represents the 10th year that we'll be using the Compact as the financing vehicle for our budget request. Again, I know you're all familiar with the Compact, and so in the respect of time, we'll jump ahead to slide 4. a rational tuition policy. As you all know, in the summer of 2011, New York State announced a new agreement on the financing of public higher education. The governor and the Assembly and the Senate announced this new agreement, which gave CUNY and SUNY the ability to raise tuition by $300 a year for 5 years, and also included a maintenance of effort agreement whereby the state had to appropriate the same level of funding for our senior colleges as they did in the previous year. And we were all very grateful for that agreement, gave us some.
Please, please stop disrupting. Please stop disrupting our meeting. I'll have to ask you to leave if you continue. Please escort him away.
The 2011 agreement provided us with some stability and provided us with the ability to do multi-year fiscal planning. The agreement in 2011 provided us with the ability to do multi-year planning, gave us some fiscal stability, and we wanted to provide the trustees with a analysis of how those additional resources have been spent. And for the first 3 years of the agreement, fiscal 12 through fiscal 14, a total of $152 million in new programmatic initiatives have been added to our campus budgets. $91 million at the senior colleges and $61 million at the community colleges. And let me point out again that this $152 million were for new initiatives at our campuses. They didn't go to fill budget shortfalls. They all went for enhancements at our campuses. 42 million of that, the largest component, went to full-time faculty, new lines, 29 million at the senior colleges, 14 at the community. That was a total of 839 new faculty lines were added over the last 3 fiscal years, 480 at the senior colleges, 359 at the community colleges. So I want to recognize our college presidents for their sound management of these additional resources. I think the university and most importantly the students have received a terrific return on their investment over the last 3 years. And again, we wanted to point this out because fiscal 2016, the request for which you're all voting tonight, is the last year of the 5-year agreement. So this law will expire on July 1st, 2016. Okay, jumping ahead to slide 5, financial aid. I want to point out that our request for 2016 again includes $10 million being set aside for the Student Financial Assistance Initiative. The financial aid initiatives include tuition waivers. We enhance our federal work-study program by $2 million. We assist students with the cost of textbooks. There's also components for graduate students and for veteran students as well. And you can see on that last bullet point that this is just a very, very small component of the amount of financial aid that's available to our students. Over $500 million was given out in financial aid in fiscal year 13-14. So jumping to the request on slide 6 for 2016, we have a funding chart on slide 6 that shows our current year's adopted budget of $3.1 billion, broken out by our 3 main funding sources: state aid, city support, and tuition and other revenue. And as Trustee Loda mentioned, we are requesting mandatory increases of $81.5 million and programmatic increases of $122.7, which would bring our total request to $3.3 billion. We have that note at the bottom of page 6 that says the budget request does not include any amounts related to any new labor contracts. As the Chancellor mentioned in his remarks, we're currently in discussions with the Professional Staff Congress and with the state and city over a new labor agreement, but any of those additional costs that would come out of those agreements are not included in the request for 16. Slide 7 is a breakout on 2 pie charts of our 3 main funding sources. And what I'd like to point out here is that our request is keeping the distribution of the 3 main funding sources the same that it is in the current year. 46% from state aid, 10% from city support, and 44% tuition and other revenue. The 2016 request keeps those shares at the same amounts. Slide 8 is a breakout of the investment plan that we are proposing in this request. And in just a few moments, I'll go into more detail about each of these components, but you can see the largest component there is for academic excellence, our main core mission of instruction, $73 million, student success, $37 million, economic workforce development and research, $29 million, and energy conservation, $1 million. So let's go to slide 9 and look at what constitutes the $73 million for academic excellence. Again, the largest component, as it has been for the last several years of our budget request, is the additional full-time faculty. We're requesting $54.5 million that would go to the hiring of approximately 500 additional full-time faculty lines. At the university, currently, we have about 7,200 full-time faculty, so this would be a major investment in the addition of full-time faculty at our campuses. We're also requesting $7 million for the expansion of CUNY's online education program. I think you've all heard the Chancellor's remarks on this in his reference to creating a digital CUNY at our university, providing our students with more flexibility and helping them get to their degree faster. We're also requesting $8 million for academic advising, which includes updating technology for advisement and for additional advisors, and also expand professional development for our faculty. And we're asking for $30.5 million for international education and diversification. Again, I think all of you have heard the Chancellor's comments on this, on creating a global CUNY. Thank you, 3.5. Sorry about that. Okay, slide 10, student success, $37.2 million. Again, I won't go through all of these bullet points. You have the document. You can read more about some of these initiatives. But I want to point out that we are including the expansion of some of the successful initiatives that we've started at the university over the past several years. $2.5 million to expand CUNY Start to our students who require pre-matriculation instruction and remediation services. $1.3 million to expand the Single Stop program, which has been very, very successful in providing services to our students at our community colleges. We also have $2 million to provide additional services to our student veterans, $4 million for library services, and $3.5 million for collaborations with the New York City Department of Education. Lastly, I want to point out that we have $4 million that we're requesting for enhanced services for students with disabilities, including the very successful CUNY Leads program, which provides vocational and educational services to our students with disabilities. Slide 11 details the economic, workforce development, and research component of our request. And the major item here is $20 million for operating costs for our new Advanced Science Research Center, which has opened on the campus of City College. We're very, very excited about the center. $20 million will cover operating costs for the center. We were funded from the state of New York for the capital costs to build the ASRC, but the operating costs were not funded. So we're looking for $20 million for those costs. We also are requesting $4.5 million for new health professions programs to build simulation labs and equipment. $4.5 million for expanding and enhancing various workforce development initiatives that are currently on our campuses. And we're also including $1 million for energy conservation. CUNY has really been a leader through the CUNY Conserves program in energy conservation in the state and in the city of New York. But we wanted to include this because the governor has a goal to reduce energy consumption by 22% by 2020 for all state agencies, including CUNY. And so we wanted to make sure that we continue our partnership with the state. So we're requesting $1 million to help our campuses reach that collective goal. Slide 12 displays the mandatory cost increases of $81.5 million that we mentioned earlier. The largest component of this, as has been for the last several years, is fringe benefits, things like health insurance, pension costs, welfare costs. The total for this year, for this coming year, is $46 million. The rate of growth of fringe benefits has actually come down the last several years. Going back 3 or 4 years ago, fringe benefits was growing at a rate of about 10 to 11% a year. Now it's down to about 6.7%. And we're requesting that to be fully funded by the state and city. Energy costs, we're projecting to increase by $11.5 million next year. We have decentralized our energy budgets and have allocated those budgets to the senior colleges. Colleges are doing a terrific job managing their energy costs. Building rentals is increasing by 8.2 next year. The biggest component of this increase is made up for what Trustee Loda mentioned earlier, the new Steiner Studios that's opening for Brooklyn College. So we're really excited about that. I want to talk for a moment about contractual salary increments, the next item, $10.6 million. The thing is, you all know, as part of the collective bargaining agreement with the Professional Staff Congress, members of our faculty and all members of Professional Staff Congress are able to move up steps. They get salary increments as they move through the contract. And that costs us about $10.6 million per year. We haven't been funded for these costs for the last 3 years. We've been self-funding it at the university and at our campuses. And this has a cumulative effect. Every year it's a new $10 million, $10.5 million. So it's additive every year. And we are concerned about this. Historically, this had been funded by the state. As I said before, it hasn't been for the last 3 years. These are contractual agreements that are made with our union and with the state and city. And so we are, again, requesting funding for that mandatory cost increase of $10.6 million. Slide 13 describes how we are proposing the request to be funded. So as stated earlier, state and city would pick up 100% of our mandatory needs, $81.5 million, and would pick up a proportion of the investment plan. So we're asking the state to pick up $23.3 million of the investment plan at the senior colleges, $9 million from the city for the community colleges. We think these are very modest requests of the state and city as part of our investment plan. The rest of the investment plan would be funded from other sources. The next item, community college state aid increase. I want to spend a couple of minutes describing this. I think, as you all know, the community colleges are funded on a per-student full-time equivalent formula basis. Currently, the state provides $2,497 per student FTE. We are requesting an increase of $250 per FTE for next year. That generates the $17.2 million you see on slide 13. The rate has been decreased, unfortunately, from 2009. In 2009, the base aid per FTE was $2,675 per FTE. Unfortunately, as a result of the recession, we had 4 straight years of reductions to this base aid formula. It is now currently at $2,497, so the $250 increase for next year would bring us a little above where we were in 2009. What we're also including in this year's request is we are asking the state for a commitment for a 3-year increase so that this $250 increase would be locked in for each of the next 3 years, so that at the end of fiscal 18, the base aid would be increased by $750 on top of the $2,497 in the current year. This would, again, bring us back to where we should be if you go back to the 2009 level and add on inflationary costs. So next year would be $17.2 million. $73.2 million from additional tuition revenue would be put 100% towards the investment plan, and then 17.5% would be generated from internal funds, from both restructuring and finding efficiencies in our budget, and from philanthropy. So lastly, on slide 14, next steps. If the request is approved tonight by the trustees, we will then share the request with the elected officials at the State Division of Budget and the City Office of Management and Budget. It's critical that we get it into the hands of these folks soon because the governor will be issuing his state executive budget for fiscal 16 in mid-January. Also in January 2015, the mayor will be presenting the city's 2016 preliminary budget. So I'm happy to take questions on the request. Before I do so, I'd just like to recognize some folks because the budget request is a process that takes several months and a lot of different constituencies. I want to thank the University Student Senate for their input, the University Faculty Senate, of course, Council of Presidents Fiscal Committee, and our Deputy Budget Director, Kathy Abada, and everyone in the University Budget Office for their terrific work on the request.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the international study? How many students participate in this program? Where do they go? What country are they being sent? For how long? How much money they receive? Would you give me a little bit more information about this?
Sure. Well, we don't have those level of details for this program. If we do receive funding for this request, we would like to work with our campuses because I think our campuses will have different needs in terms of who they send and what the student population is of the folks they send. But I think going back to the Chancellor's remarks earlier, CUNY is very well situated to take advantage of international education and to be more globalized. Over 40% of our overall student body was born outside of the mainland U.S., and so that gives us, I think, a competitive advantage.
Where do they go when they have to go abroad?
Thank you. That's a terrific question. And as you know, this is a big place with 24 colleges that are participating in some kind of study abroad programs. And so the provost and I have just started to pull some of the data together so that we'll have just that answer to those questions and thinking about where we need to make additional investments in the future. Sure they do. So, but we'd be happy to provide that information in more detail at some point, and I'll be making a report on this at some point in the future, but I appreciate the question.
Other comments? Professor Martel?
With regard to page 7, those diagrams are exactly correct, but a tad misleading, in my view. They tend to 7, yes. They tend to overstate the amount of tuition paid, even though the amount of tuition is correct, and understate the amount of state aid we get, because $270 million is TAP funding, which is a direct pass-through from the state through the students to us. So if you add that back in, our budget comes de facto directly from the state, and our tuition, while higher than we all would like it, still is reduced by the amount of direct state aid. Now, I don't have the information to do the similar analysis on Pell, but I suspect that some of that $573 million would fall in the same category. I understand Pell is more generous in how you can use that money, but again, these are de facto pass-throughs, and while they're definitely tuition, they're also definitely direct state payments.
No, that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know, historically, tuition has included the payments that we receive, as you mentioned, Trustee Martel, from the federal government for Pell and from the state for the TAP program. But I think it raises a good point. If you go back to slide 6 and you look at our total budget, tuition and other revenue, almost $4 billion. not all of that is being paid out of pocket by students. And as we've pointed out at previous meetings of the board, over 60% of our students attend tuition-free because of Pell and TAP. So that's a terrific point.
Well, Pell is over 500 million.
Right.
So if you put that in as federal aid,
Right.
we're receiving, you know, a significant amount of
Almost $800 million.
federal support. Are there other comments or questions about the operating budget request? I would just note that if we're successful in this and we can add another 500 faculty, we will be up to 7,700 plus faculty. When I joined this board in 1999, there were fewer than 5,000 full-time faculty. So we will have increased the full-time faculty at the university by more than 50% over the past 15 years, which represents a magnificent and major change in a time of fiscal restraint. There's not a university in the country that has been able to see such increases, and we need to keep generating them as our enrollments keep rising, and because we want to increase the percentage of our curriculum that is covered by full-time faculty rather than part-time faculty, because it's far better for our students. So we've been able to do some magnificent work in increasing the full-time faculty, but we need to continue that effort in the future. Any other comments? Are you making you've made the motion?
Not yet, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I move the approval and adoption of calendar item 3F.
I'd like to second that motion. Are there comments or questions about the item? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? The item is adopted.
And following the approval of action item 3F, the Subcommittee on Investments was convened, and the minutes of the prior meeting were approved. The meeting then was adjourned and went into executive session, during which time 2 information items were presented to the subcommittee. The first was a portfolio review by the university's chief investment officer, Janet Crone, and the second was a hedge fund discussion with Ms. Crone and representatives of Cambridge Associates. The subcommittee then returned to public session, and it was adjourned. The subcommittee on audit was then convened, and after approval of the minutes of the meeting of June 2nd, the financial statements of the university for fiscal year 2014 were approved by the subcommittee. The meeting was then adjourned, went into executive session, where the subcommittee met with KPMG, our auditors, without management, and subsequently the subcommittee also met with management excluding KPMG. A third information item was discussed, detailing additional work that the university will be engaging with KPMG. These activities will be the development and review of PCI compliance activities and tax support for incubator and accelerator activities. With no more items on the agenda, this meeting was adjourned. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll turn next to Trustee Valerie Beal to present items from the Committee on Faculty, Staff, and Administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will now present for the board's approval the items that the Committee for Faculty, Staff, and Administration considered at its meeting on November 3rd. Item 4A amends Section 6.1 of the bylaws to establish a new title series to be used in a medical degree program at the City College of New York. The college has applied for accreditation by the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, LCME, and if granted, preliminary accreditation will offer an MD granting program beginning in August 2016. LCME accreditation standards require that supervision of medical students at hospitals be provided by physicians who are members of the institution's faculty. In order for CUNY to meet the LCME requirement that clinical medical faculty have CUNY appointments, the university is creating these new titles. However, consistent with the practice of many medical schools, the clinical supervisors in CCNY's medical program will be employed by the hospital and not directly by the school. Therefore, individuals in the affiliated medical professor titles will not receive compensation from or have employment status at CUNY. Mr. Chair, I present item 4A for the board's consideration.
I'll second that item. Are there questions about the item? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That's adopted.
Thank you. Item 4B amends Section 9.1F of the bylaws to clarify the composition of personnel and budget committees at Hunter College Elementary School and Hunter College High School. The amendment makes clear that only instructional staff members who are tenured or will have tenure by the time of service may be elected to and serve on the personnel and budget committees at the Hunter schools. This has been the practice at the schools and is consistent with current bylaw requirements for departmental personnel and budget committees. Mr. Chair, I present item 4B for the board's consideration.
I'll second that. Are there questions about the item? Not all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That's carried.
Item 4C concerns adoption of a revised university policy on equal opportunity and non-discrimination. Previously, provisions regarding sexual harassment were located within the policy on equal opportunity and non-discrimination. These provisions have been removed and placed in a new policy on sexual misconduct, which is item 7B on our calendar today. No other significant changes have been made to the revised policy on equal opportunity and non-discrimination, although it has been updated to reflect changes in the law and to reflect addition of several CUNY units not previously listed. Mr. Chair, I present item 4C for the board's consideration.
And I'll second that. Are there questions about the item? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? That carries.
Items 4D and 4E are naming opportunities at two colleges, which I will present together. They are the Dr. Rachel and Barry Goldsmith Tennis Facility at Kingsborough Community College and the Claire Towle Theater at Brooklyn College. The Committee on Faculty, Staff, and Administration has reviewed these matters and recommends their approval. Mr. Chair, I present item 4D and 4E for the board's consideration.
I'll second those items. Are there questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Those items carry.
Mr. Chair, I would like now to share some matters discussed at our committee meeting with the board. I was particularly glad to hear Vice Chancellor Waters' report on the good work being done by the university's Office of Recruitment and Diversity. This past fall, Dean Jennifer Rubain and her staff led a very successful session on diversity program at CUPA HR's annual conference and expo, which was later turned into a webinar. In addition, Kingsborough Community College recently held a diversity symposium on creating safe spaces in a diverse environment. And on March 20 of next year, Vice Chancellor Waters' office will sponsor a university-wide faculty diversity conference at the Graduate Center that all are invited to attend. Finally, Mr. Chair, I would like to report very briefly on the progress of the CUNY Defined Contribution Investment Oversight Task Force. We have been meeting on a monthly basis to review the university's pension and retirement vehicles. As I previously reported, the university is in compliance, and we are now moving forward to establish procedures and policies that will make CUNY a leader in this area. I look forward to sharing our findings in more detail at a board meeting during the first quarter of next year. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll turn now to the Committee on Facilities Planning and Management. May I call on Trustee Frida Foster?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Board of Trustees Committee on Facilities Planning and Management considered two items at its meeting on November 3rd, 2014. These action items are listed in the board meeting as calendar items 5A through 5C. 5A, Baruch College Information and Technology Building Fire Alarm Project. This is to increase the authorized amount of a purchase order from $900,000 to $1,100,000 to install a fire alarm system in the Information and Technology Building at Baruch College under the existing New York State Office of General Services contract, number PT 63301. Subsequent to the completion of the design of the Information and Technology Building's fire alarm project, it was determined that an additional $200,000 will be required to undertake the fire alarm installation to meet all New York City Fire Code requirements. Item 5B, John Jay College lease renewal at 555 West 57th Street on the 6th floor. This is to authorize the General Counsel to execute a lease renewal for 9 years and 11 months for approximately 50,000 rentable square feet of space at 555 West 57th Street on behalf of the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. John Jay has occupied 500,000 square feet of office space at 555 West 57th Street since 1999. The current lease will expire January 29, 2020 at a current gross annual rent of $40.50 per square foot. To secure long-term occupancy of the space from January 3rd, 2020 to December 3rd, 2030, the university and the landlord have agreed to an early renewal of the existing lease at a rate of $55 per square foot per year for the first 5 years and $60 per square foot for the balance of the term. Item 5C, City University of New York, 5-year capital budget request from fiscal year 2015 to 2016 through fiscal year 2019 to 2020. This is to approve a 5-year capital budget request for fiscal years 2015 through fiscal year 2019 to 2020 of approximately $6.8 billion for projects authorized by the City University Construction Fund. Every year, the university is required to submit a 5-year capital plan to the State Division of the Budget and the City Office of Management and Budget. As in previous plans, the fiscal year 2015-2016 through fiscal year 2019-2020 request focuses on completion of existing projects and critical health, safety code compliance, and rehabilitation projects, while recognizing the need for expansion and modernization of facilities as called in for campus master plans. And I believe there is a document at everyone's desk. I hereby request your approval of these calendar items.
I'll second those 3 items. Are there questions about any of the items? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Those 3 items are adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll turn now to the Committee on Academic Policy, Programs, and Research. I'd like to call on Trustee Wellington Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At its November 3rd meeting, the committee approved the following policy matters. Calendar number 6A, School of Professional Studies, Master of Science in Disability Services in Higher Education. Currently, most professionals in the field of university disability services have tangentially related graduate degrees. This program covers the various types of disabilities and appropriate accommodations, addressing the legal requirements for disability accommodations, as well as the administration of disability offices. This degree will be the first of its kind in the nation and will be taught in an online format, allowing School of Professional Studies to recruit nationally. Calendar number 6B, Hunter College, Doctor of Education in Instructional Leadership. This will be the first Doctor of Education at CUNY. It will prepare professionals in the K-12 education sector to advance to administrative positions such as school superintendents and district-level directors of curriculum. Students will learn research methodologies that can be used in their current and future professional settings, and the program will culminate in an applied dissertation. The student, most of whom will be working full-time while pursuing their degree, will enroll and complete the program in cohorts. Calendar number 6C, Hunter College, Establishment of the Department of Women and Gender Studies. Established in 1975, the Women and Gender Studies program at Hunter College was one of the first such programs in the country. Hunter's Women and Gender Studies Department will be the first of its kind at CUNY. Calendar number item 6D. Borough of Manhattan Community College, Associate of Science in Animation and Motion Graphics. BMCC seeks to build on its current success with associate degree programs in video arts technology, multimedia programming, and multimedia art and design by adding an AS in animation and motion graphics to this suite of related programs. Computer-generated imagery, or CGI as it is known, allows for the creation of characters, special effects, and scenes that are embedded in media that we watch every day. Basic courses in animation and digital art combined with a solid general education will prepare students for entry-level positions and for transfer to senior colleges. Calendar number 6E, City College School of Medicine in Medical Education. City College presently offers a BS in Biomedical Education and works with partners institutions to admit students into an accelerated MD program. The college is now seeking to become a Doctor of Medicine degree granting institution in order to offer both the BS in Biomedical Education and the MD degree at CUNY in a form that will accelerate that will accelerate students through both programs. This pursuant permission to award the MD degree also requires a request for a master plan amendment from the New York State Board of Regents. By controlling the full continuum of student medical education, these programs will provide the transformational path needed for New York City and state to educate and train primary care physicians to practice in communities that have the highest need for basic medical care and services. Calendar number item 6F, resolution to confer honorary degrees at CUNY School of Law, Hunter College, and City College. The CUNY School of Law wishes to confer honorary Doctor of Laws upon Lynn Paltrow, a women's rights activist. Hunter College wishes to confer an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters upon Twala Thorpe, the international known choreographer. City College wishes to confer an honorary Doctor of Science upon Michael Pope, class of 44, a recognized authority in the power plant field. He's a member of the Grove School Engineering Advisory Board and a generous donor to the college. Item number 6A through 6F were approved by the committee and recommend the approval by the board.
I'll second those items. Are there any questions for the committee on any of these items?
Chairman?
Yes.
Just a comment. I don't know if I'll be here when the medical degree will be established in CUNY, but I only hope that the number of students will come from the minority community, taking in consideration the composition of our city. I only hope that Dominican, especially, will be allowed the opportunity to become MD in the city of New York, when the majority of our community are Hispanic and they don't have that many physicians practicing in the city of New York.
Thank you for that comment. Are there any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the items in number 6, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstention? Those items are adopted.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll turn now to the Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs, but I want to make a comment before I turn to the committee chair. I want to thank Trustees Foster, Schwartz, Martell, and Awaji for attending the board's public hearing last Monday, on November 24th. There was considerable public testimony concerning the existing right of students to remain silent in disciplinary proceedings without any assumption of guilt attaching. Hearing the compelling testimony from many students on that subject, and having reviewed other institutions of higher education's policies on this point, the Chancellor has recommended that our current policy regarding the right of silence remain unchanged. And we will we'll continue to study the matter. Other institutions have policies similar to the one that CUNY currently has, so it appears that our current policy is indeed in the mainstream of what many other educational institutions are doing. And I concur with this decision by the Chancellor to leave the current policy in effect, and I believe Vice Chair Berry, Trustee Robles Roman, who chairs this committee, and the other trustees who were present at that hearing also concur in this decision not to seek a change in the policy at this time. I want to thank the people who brought this issue to our attention for their very, very thoughtful comments that have caused us to change our view of this matter, and we will continue to study it. May I now call on Trustee Robles Roman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs has 2 items for the board's approval. The committee met on November 3rd and approved calendar items 7A and 7B. I'm pleased to move on behalf of the Board of Trustees, Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs, calendar item 7A, and would like to read the official explanation into the record. The City University of New York, amendments to Article 9 of the bylaws. Now, as we all know, this is an issue of great public importance throughout the country today. We're talking about the recent changes in federal law and regulations, guidance from the Office of Civil Rights of the United States Department of Education, and recommendations of the White House Task Force to protect students from sexual assault. A working group within the central office of the university has been reviewing the student disciplinary procedures contained in Article 15 of the bylaws. The working group was comprised of representatives of the Offices of Student Affairs, Human Resources Management and Legal Affairs, and it consulted widely with students, faculty, and staff throughout the university, as well as with experts in the field. The substantive changes contained in the proposed amendments include providing complainants with the same opportunity as respondents to participate in student disciplinary hearings before a faculty student disciplinary committee, including the right to receive notice of the charges, to be represented by a person of their choice, including an attorney, to attend the hearing, to present evidence, to call witnesses, to cross-examine witnesses, to receive notice of the outcome of the hearing, and to appeal from the decision. Mr. Chairman, I ask for a vote on this calendar item 7A.
I'll second that, and I'd like to comment that I think the work of the university staff and others on this item has been absolutely exemplary. Are there comments or questions on item 7A? Yes.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the University Student Senate, I would like to thank Chairman Schmidt, Chancellor Milliken, and the CUNY trustees, as well as the Chancellery for their leadership in preserving students' rights to remain silent without the assumption of guilt during the disciplinary hearing in our bylaws. As you witnessed at the public hearing last week, our student leaders seized the right to remain silent as a fundamental student right. By preserving this right, you showed your commitment to student rights. To the student leaders who took the initiative and adopted resolutions on their campuses, and to those who also delivered compelling arguments at the hearing last week because you knew this was an important issue, we say thank you. Your contributions are truly appreciated. Councilmember Ines Barron, who serves as the chair of the Higher Education Committee for New York City Council, has been very supportive of our cause. Not only did she write a letter of support, but she also got 20 council members to sign her letter in solidarity. Additionally, she took the time out of her very demanding schedule to attend a public hearing and testify in support of the resolution our students adopted. Councilmember Rory Lackman also wrote a strong letter of support on behalf of CUNY students, also deserves recognition for his advocacy on behalf of CUNY students. I think all of the student leaders of CUNY applaud the university's effort to become compliant with all of the federal mandated changes of Title IX. There is no place for sexual assault or sexual harassment on CUNY campuses. We stand by the university leadership in their effort to combat these challenges. We thank the Chancellor and the Board of Trustees for making this a priority. Today is my first day as a trustee at CUNY. I must say that I'm excited with the tone the board and our senior administration has set. It shows that the opinions of our students are valued. It shows that the Board of Trustees and the Chancellor truly care about CUNY students, and it shows that we can achieve more through partnership. It shows that the dialogue communication can be effective. It shows that the dialogue and communication can be effective tool in building a partnership. And finally, it shows that there is a shared governance of CUNY. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there other comments on this item or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Abstentions? The item is adopted.
I have another item. I am pleased to move on behalf of the Board of Trustees Committee on Student Affairs and Special Programs, calendar item 7B, and would like to read the official explanation into the record. The City University of New York Policy on Sexual Misconduct. The proposed policy on sexual misconduct consolidates in one policy the prior policy on sexual harassment, which was part of the policy on equal opportunity and non-discrimination, and the prior policy on sexual assault. The proposed policy on sexual misconduct now revises and updates those prior policies in light of recent changes in federal law and regulations, guidance from the Office of Civil Rights of the United States Department of Education, and recommendations of the White House Task Force to protect students from sexual assault, and increased and justified concern about these important issues. The proposed policy was drafted by a working group from the CUNY Offices of Student Affairs, Human Resources Management, and Legal Affairs, which consulted widely with students, faculty, and staff throughout the university, as well as with experts in the field. The proposed policy ensures that those who experience campus-related sexual harassment, gender-based harassment, or sexual violence, including sexual assault, stalking, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or dating violence, will have the following rights: to be provided with confidential on-campus counseling, and to be notified of other available services on and off campus, to obtain, where appropriate, changes with respect to campus, academic, and living arrangements, no contact orders, and other interim remedial measures to enable them to continue their education without undue stress or trauma, to have their complaints handled respectfully by the campus, to be informed about how the campus will protect their privacy and confidentiality, and to have any allegations of retaliation addressed by the campus forthwith, to file a criminal complaint, and to seek an order of protection with the assistance of the college if they so choose, to make a formal complaint at the campus as the first step in the disciplinary process against the respondent or respondents, to have their complaint investigated in a prompt, impartial, and thorough manner by individuals who've received appropriate training in conducting investigations and the issues related to sexual harassment and sexual violence, to report incidents of sexual harassment or sexual violence that they experience while under the influence of alcohol or drugs without receiving discipline for their alcohol or drug use, subject to certain conditions, to have the same opportunity as the alleged perpetrators to participate in a student disciplinary hearing before a faculty-student disciplinary committee, including the right to receive notice of the charges, to be represented by a person of their choice, including an attorney if they so choose, to attend the hearing, to present evidence, to call witnesses, to cross-examine witnesses, to receive notice of the outcome of the hearing, and to appeal from the decision. Mr. Chairman, I ask for a vote on this calendar item 7B.
I'd like to second this item from the committee, and I'd like to say once again that I think the staff of the university and the various university constituencies have done an outstanding job in their consideration of this complex issue. Are there questions for the committee on item 7B? Yes.
I just have a short comment. First of all, I join in commending the individuals responsible for coming up with, I think, with a very good policy. I am a little concerned. The last thing we just agreed on concerning this right to remain silent, there is an inconsistency here, and I think we need to be a little clear. I think the notion of remaining silent is fine, but I do think it should probably come with an admonition. The fact is, silence is not a defense. Silence is just nothing more than silence. And when you have situations where it could result in civil litigation, it could result in a variety of other matters, I do think that a student accused of some degree of misconduct, whether in the sexual sphere or elsewhere, really ought to understand that while being silent is certainly a right that CUNY is happy to afford students, that they should understand the full repercussions of being silent. We have a situation or a process that allows for determination of guilt or innocence by a preponderance of the evidence, which is the appropriate standard to be employed here. And not offering a defense is virtually a guarantee, whether there is a presumption or not, is virtually a guarantee that the person who stands accused has a very good probability of being found to have committed the offense. So while I'm okay with the notion of and endorse what this board has done today and is about to do on this very important topic, which I think is extremely important, I do think it is equally important that if we are going to maintain due process, that it be an informed due process. So I would just ask that who's ever looking at this, look at some form of warning or admonition that while you have the right to remain silent and we will not draw an adverse inference from that silence, the state of the evidence will be what the state of the evidence is. And if you don't provide a voluntary defense, while we are not going to rule you committed the offense solely on your silence, I think students really do need to understand that this is a very serious matter, and if they have a defense to a charge, being silent is not the way to articulate it. They ought to come forward and speak up. But I want to be clear, I am absolutely fine with this notion. I think it is somewhat misapplied. The whole notion of a constitutional right is totally misapplied. But the fact is, if we are going to do that, I do think these are young, inexperienced, they're not lawyers. They should understand that while you exercise a right, there are often consequences beyond assumption of guilt, but a consequence nevertheless.
Thank you. I'll ask the Office of the General Counsel to take those comments in consideration, but I appreciate that. Are there other comments about item 7B or questions? If not, all in favor of the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Item 7B carries.
Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report of the committee.
Thank you very much. That concludes the public business that we have for this hearing. I wish everyone a very pleasant and good holidays, and we'll see you in the new year. We're adjourned.